The film opens on the desolate expanse of an American frontier in the late 1800s. Lizzy Macklin stands outside her small prairie cabin, her dress and hands soaked in blood. In her arms, she carries the lifeless body of a newborn, carefully wrapped in a cloth bundle. Her face is pale, fixed between shock and numb determination. Without speaking, she steps toward a freshly dug grave where Isaac, her husband, and Gideon Harper, their neighbor, are waiting. Beside the grave lies another body, Emma Harper, Gideon's young wife. Her still form, dressed in a simple gown, rests close to the child, as if even in death she is guarding her baby. The three adults work in grim silence. Isaac lowers Emma into the earth, while Lizzy gently places the tiny bundle in her arms. Gideon, his face streaked with grief, shovels dirt over them. The sound of soil hitting the wooden coffin echoes through the windswept plain. No words are exchanged. The isolation of the prairie seems to amplify their sorrow, the endless horizon offering no comfort. Lizzy's eyes flick toward Gideon, and an unspoken tension lingers. Something more than tragedy hangs in the air. Sometime before the tragedy, Lizzy and Isaac are shown working at their homestead, a modest cabin surrounded by endless grassland. The air is dry, the wind constant, and the nearest settlement is many miles away. Life is quiet and predictable, until a wagon appears on the horizon. The newcomers are Emma and Gideon, a young couple seeking to build a life on the prairie. They settle roughly a mile away, their cabin a faint speck on the prairie's horizon, bringing fresh energy and conversation to the otherwise silent plains. Isaac helps Gideon unload their belongings, while Lizzy cautiously greets Emma. The two women exchange polite smiles, though Lizzy's manner is reserved. That evening the couples share a meal. Conversation is light at first, talk of crops, weather, and the hard work ahead. Emma, bright-eyed and hopeful, speaks of the freedom the land promises. Lizzy listens quietly, her expression unreadable. The presence of new neighbors brings both relief from isolation, and the subtle awareness that lives so close together on such open land can become deeply entangled. As the Harpers settle into their cabin, Lizzy watches from a distance, noting their closeness and the warmth between them. The wind whistles through the grass, a constant reminder of the land's solitude. For the moment the prairie feels less lonely, yet beneath the surface, unspoken tensions begin to take root. Tensions that will soon grow into something far more dangerous. In the weeks following their arrival, Emma and Lizzy begin to spend more time together. With their husbands often away tending to livestock or working the land, the two women find company in shared chores, mending clothes, baking bread, and fetching water from the nearby creek. Emma's lively nature contrasts with Lizzy's quieter, more guarded demeanor, yet a tentative friendship forms between them. Emma often speaks of her hopes for the future, her dreams of raising children in the open prairie air. Lizzy listens politely but offers little about herself. Beneath her calm exterior she harbors a sense of unease. The isolation that has long defined her life feels disrupted by Emma's constant chatter and youthful optimism. Subtle shifts in mood arise when Lizzy notices Emma lingering in conversation with Isaac. While the exchanges appear innocent, Lizzy's eyes linger a moment too long, her thoughts clouded by suspicion. She begins to interpret Emma's warmth toward Isaac as something more than neighborly kindness. One afternoon Emma insists on showing Lizzy a patch of land she and Gideon plan to cultivate. The wind whips across the field, carrying Emma's laughter, but Lizzy's smile is faint. The closeness between the two couples, once a relief from solitude, now feels complicated, tinged with unvoiced suspicions. Though no harsh words are exchanged, a subtle undercurrent of rivalry begins to ripple through Lizzy's interactions with Emma. One chilly afternoon as the wind howls around the cabin walls, Emma visits Lizzy with a troubled expression. She carries a small, weathered booklet, its cover marked with strange illustrations of horned figures and shadowy beasts. Emma explains that a traveling preacher had stopped by their homestead, speaking of the devils of the plains, and the evil that roams in the open plains. His warnings unsettled her, and he left behind the pamphlet, which depicts signs of possession and ways to guard against unseen forces. Lizzy flips through the pages, her brow furrowing at the disturbing drawings. Emma confesses that she has been hearing noises at night, distant voices carried in the wind, and knocks at her door when no one is there. She insists that something malevolent is watching her, feeding on her fears. Lizzy tries to offer practical explanations, attributing the sounds to the wind and the isolation of the land. Still, she can't entirely shake the unease that creeps in as she studies the preacher's crude warnings. The stark images awaken half-forgotten fears of her own solitary nights about the vast empty landscape and the strange things it can conceal. As Emma leaves, clutching the pamphlet tightly, Lizzy stands in the doorway, watching her walk back across the windswept grass. The endless sky feels heavier, the whistling wind sharper. For the first time, Lizzy wonders if the loneliness of the prairie hides dangers more tangible, or more supernatural, than she has ever allowed herself to believe. The days grow colder, and Emma's visits to Lizzy become more frantic. Her eyes are shadowed with exhaustion, her voice trembling as she speaks of noises outside her cabin, shadows at the window, and whispers in the wind. She insists the presence described in the preacher's pamphlet is real, that it has fixed its attention on her and the unborn child she is carrying. One evening, Lizzy walks to the Harpers' cabin after hearing distant shouting. Inside she finds Emma pacing wildly, clutching her belly, muttering prayers under her breath. Emma claims the creature has been outside all day, circling the house, waiting for darkness to fall. Her fear is so intense that she tries to barricade the doors and windows with furniture. Lizzy, torn between sympathy and frustration, attempts to calm her. Finally, Lizzy uses a precious vial of chloroform, kept for emergencies, to sedate her, the sharp scent filling the air. Emma's breathing steadies, the cabin eerily still. Lizzy sits beside her, staring at the flickering lamplight and wondering if Emma's terror is madness, or a warning she has been too proud to heed. Outside, the prairie is silent, but the ever-present wind presses against the walls, carrying with it a sense of something unseen, waiting. Night falls heavy over the prairie. Lizzy remains at the Harpers' cabin, keeping watch over Emma, who lies sedated and bound to the bed. Hours pass in tense silence, broken only by the wind pressing against the walls. At some point, Lizzy dozes in her chair. A sudden sharp gunshot jolts her awake. Heart pounding, she rushes to the bedroom. Emma, her restraints loosened, is slumped against the headboard, her nightdress soaked in blood. Lizzy's mind churns. Was this truly Emma's choice, or the final act of something that had been tormenting her for weeks? Either way, the prairie has claimed 2 more lives. With no time to dwell, Lizzy prepares for the grim burial at dawn. After Emma's death and the burial at dawn, the prairie feels emptier than ever. Gideon departs for a time, leaving Lizzy and Isaac alone on their spread. The days stretch long, each one marked by a restless wind that seems to whisper at the edges of hearing. One evening, Isaac is away on an errand when Lizzy hears a commotion outside. She grabs a rifle and steps into the dark, the lantern light swaying in her hand. A pack of wolves prowls near the barn, their eyes glinting in the shadows. Lizzy fires into the air to scare them off, but one lunges, forcing her to slam the door shut just in time. The next morning, she finds her goat dead, its throat torn open. She drags the carcass away, shaken. Later, as she tends to chores, she glimpses the same goat alive in the pasture. Relief flashes across her face, then confusion. The animal stares at her, unmoving, its eyes unnaturally fixed. Unease twists in her gut. Lizzy raises her rifle and fires, dropping the creature instantly. Her breathing is ragged, her hands unsteady. One restless night, Lizzy notices a faint flickering light across the plain. It's coming from the Harpers' abandoned cabin, where no one should be. Curiosity wrestles with dread, but the pull is too strong to ignore. She wraps a shawl around her shoulders, grips her lantern, and makes the lonely walk through the whispering grass. The door creaks open under her hand. Inside, the air is cold and stale, yet the small oil lamp burns on the table. The building behind her is silent and dark once more, as if nothing had happened. Days after the incident at the Harper cabin, a lone figure appears on the horizon. As he approaches, Lizzy recognizes him as the same preacher who once visited the Harpers. He greets her politely, but there's a strange heaviness in his eyes, as though exhaustion and fear weigh on him. Lizzy offers him shelter for the night. They speak little over supper, the preacher avoiding her gaze, his hands trembling slightly as he eats. Outside, the wind moans against the cabin walls. Deep into the night, pounding jolts Lizzy awake. She hears the preacher's voice outside, frantic, calling her name and begging to be let in. She hesitates, then unbolts the door. He stumbles inside, wild-eyed, claiming something attacked him while he slept in the Harper cabin. As he paces the room, his voice shifts, low and guttural, the cadence wrong, almost inhuman. He speaks in riddles about the land and the wind, about forces that cannot be driven away. Tension between Lizzy and Isaac reaches its breaking point when Isaac discovers Emma's diary tucked among Lizzy's belongings. Reading its pages, he finds entries suggesting Emma feared Lizzy and hinted at an affair between Emma and Isaac. The implications twist the already tangled web of grief, suspicion, and paranoia. Confronting her, Isaac's voice is tight with anger. He accuses Lizzy of harboring jealousy that poisoned their lives, and perhaps of being responsible for Emma's death. Lizzy denies it, but the shadows in her eyes betray inner turmoil. In a sudden burst, Isaac overpowers her, tying her to the bed with coarse rope, declaring he will find out the truth. Night falls, the cabin lit only by a dim lamp. Lizzy strains against her bindings, the wind howling outside as if echoing her desperation. Summoning her strength, she works free of the ropes. When Isaac returns, the confrontation turns violent. In the struggle, Lizzy seizes a shard of broken glass from the floor and drives it into his neck. Isaac collapses, the light in his eyes fading. Lizzy stands over him, chest heaving, in heavy silence. At dawn, she steps outside into the biting wind. The horizon stretches endlessly, the sky pale with morning. She stumbles a few paces into the open field before dropping to her knees. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth recaps and reviews. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the hidden truths in every story.